grief really does come in waves. It really, really does. Everyone always says that. But what I want to say about those waves is that they're not all the same size and they're not all the same color. Some of the waves are those dark, heavy, huge, crashing down, you can't swim through. And then there's also like these other ripples of grief where there are those smaller waves, those little ripples. I get this little wave of grief that's really just a reminder of his love and my love for him. And I know that he's always here somewhere. Welcome to Lay It On Me, a space where we come together to explore all of life's moments. I'm Claire, and I'm here to listen, share what I can, and most of all, hold space for you. This is a place where you can lay down whatever is on your heart and be met with no judgment, just honesty, love, and connection. Whether it's something big or small, light or heavy, lay it on me, and let's see where we end up together. Hello everyone, welcome back for episode 3. Wow, it might not feel like a lot, but it is a lot. I've put a lot into this show so far, and to show up again for episode 3, it feels really, really great. Third time is the charm, right? And I'm just really, really excited to continue to dive in to some really wonderful conversations. I've been having such a wonderful time not only talking about these topics while I'm recording, but also then in reflection with you who are listening. Anyone in my life who's reached out and talked to me about the podcast. My heart is just fluttering. I am so excited about these conversations because it has already opened up such wonderful conversations in my life. And today's episode is actually going to be inspired by that. Instead of a direct submission today, I just really want to dive into what's been on my mind and on my heart. So here we go. I was talking to my mom this weekend. She came to visit just for lunch for the day. And we, first of all, had incredible conversations about so many different things in our lives and things going on within our family and offering different perspectives. And then my mom brought up my podcast. Hi, Mom. Which feels really surreal, but it was also really cool because then we got to dive into some conversations that we might not have otherwise had they not been fresh on each of our minds, me from recording and editing and her from listening a little bit. And there were certain things that we just ended up talking about that I never would have expected, or that probably wouldn't have come up in that moment the same way without me having opened up this space and these conversations. And honestly, that is just one of the things that I couldn't have hoped for. I couldn't have hoped to see sort of the fruit of so soon from this show, but really that is a big part of my goal, is to just inspire these types of conversations and these types of topics to just be talked about, be open about, and for people to hopefully feel more comfortable sharing their perspective when it's different, or relating when it is the same in a way where maybe you felt alone, right? So anyway, I was talking with my mom, and we got to talking a bit about just sort of like my personal self-growth journey over the last few years. And she was asking me a little bit about it, and I was saying, I went to therapy pretty much every single week for about 6 straight years, and I learned so much. And then I went through a coaching program, and I learned even more about how to implement and live with all of this stuff that I had learned and processed through in therapy and other experiences, and just get really specific and clear with myself about how I wanted to show up and allow these discoveries and whatever else to really inform my life and be really intentional and really focused and clear in a way that really provides me with tangible evidence of the way I'm moving through the world. And then in turn, I get to receive so much more from the world and from all the people that I interact with and the experiences that I have. I just feel so much more connected to my own experience in a way that I had an inkling was possible. I was certainly searching for parts of this throughout all of those processes, but I didn't exactly know what it was until I found it, So through these conversations and after these conversations, I started thinking a lot about the role that processing and moving through grief, the role that has played in my life and in my growth, especially in my young adulthood up until now. Grief has played a very, very powerful role throughout all of that. It is one of the reasons I got back into therapy when I did, that then turned into 6 years consistent with the same therapist. Before then, I had been on and off with different therapists, looking for a good fit, or I had moved a couple times, and so then I would switch things around, and I was never super, super settled in it or seeing sort of the long game of it. And then when I was 22, one of my very good friends from college suddenly passed. It was a just crazy random heart problem. And so it was extremely unexpected to everyone. And it is one of those things where, for me, there is such a clear before and after of that experience. And it was a few months after that happened that I found the therapist that I then stayed with for the next 6 years. I got to a point in that grieving process where I realized I was not okay. I was not processing things, and I wanted to just really, really do the work on myself to just figure out how to live with this experience that I had. And so this is one of those things that is so hard to talk about, because I think that, as I think with pretty much all feelings, especially the big ones, grief, love, fear, we all have such different experiences of it, from how it comes up in our lives and from how we decide to process it, if we do process it, if we can process it. Grief is just one of those things where, I don't know that a lot of people want to talk about it necessarily, because it does feel so inexplicable. Because it is. And part of my process in moving through feelings like this, or waves of grief from in relation to this experience or any others, I always try to remind myself that I don't need to fully understand. There is a lot of room, actually, I think, in grief for accepting the fact that there's so much that we don't know and that maybe we will never know when it comes to how we are feeling and really processing an experience like this. So yeah, I hope that if you're out there listening, you maybe are ready to dive into this with me. I'm gonna dive on in. I want to talk about grief, and I want to talk about how it has been a very powerful force for me to actually find deep love and connection and joy and all of the things that feel like they could never really coexist, but they do, and they have. And a lot of wise people, wiser than me, will have said that grief is one of the greatest teachers in this life. And I have absolutely found that to be true. Losing a friend so young. If anyone out there has ever lost anyone, I see you and I feel you. And grief is meant to be shared, I think, in a way that maybe most of us just haven't found yet. And so maybe this is just one of my attempts to reach out and share some of my experience with grief, and hope that if you are out there and you connect with any of this, then just take that for exactly what it is. You're not alone. You're not alone, no matter what. And grief can sometimes make us feel really, really isolated, especially like I was saying before, because there just really doesn't seem to be a clear way to understand it. And without that, it gets really hard to share it, right? And I think that if we can just hold on to what we do understand about each other in moving through experiences like losing a loved one, then I think it can really help to allow grief to be the teacher that it is. So, oh boy, what can I possibly make sense of here in this space right now to share? I think the biggest thing that I really, really want to share is that I really believe that we don't have to shy away from this stuff. I used to get so scared that I would get stuck if I thought about it too much, or if I thought about my friend too much now that he's gone, or if I thought about how sad I was, or if I thought about happy memories. I just felt like talking about grief can be really scary, because I have certainly had the experience where I can feel very stuck in trying to process a certain feeling or experience. And when it comes to grief, there's just so much that is unknown and can be confusing that I, for one, am very prone to then feeling stuck in that. But what I have really found is that the more that I talk about it, the more that I share it, and the more that I get really connected to how this experience has shaped me and how this experience has helped me to move forward in the way that I have, then the less prone I am to feeling stuck in those feelings, or getting stuck in a processing loop or anything like that. If you relate to any of that type of experience at all, boy, do I see you. I am definitely I am definitely someone that can get very much stuck in my head trying to process the same thing over and over and over and get on a little bit of a loop. And that's why things like therapy and coaching and other supportive tools and systems and whatever can really help me specifically, because then I have another person to reflect back to me or catch me in that loop and inquire about something and get me out and all of that. That's why I am such that's one tiny reason why I am such a huge proponent of things like therapy and coaching and really outsourcing that type of support for yourself, because having another person there for me has been absolutely essential to noticing what I'm doing and how I'm processing things, and having someone help me navigate a different way to do that, or at least just like acknowledge it when I am not fully aware of it. Yeah. So grief, when it comes to grief, the more that I have been able to hold a lot of this grief with all of the other experiences that I have been having over the last 5 to 6 years, since my friend passed away, the more that I have been able to consciously hold the full experience of that experience, the more that I have actually been able to find all of the other colors of everything and every experience, and in things like feeling such intense joy and true and deep love and real lasting connection with other people. Those are probably my big 3, like that I'm going after on a day-to-day basis. Joy, love, connection. That's really what I seek out. And when I have been really intentional about the way that I carry the grief of having lost a really, really great friend, it doesn't darken any of the other experiences. It actually illuminates them in a real profound way, because for me, really processing the death of another person, it really just automatically puts into focus how beautiful life is. Grief and death are so hard because what's here and what's still here and what has been here is so beautiful. And the connection to that person and the love that I feel for that person still, that is so beautiful. And none of that can ever be lost. And one of the hardest parts of moving through this grief at such a young age, because of someone passing at such a young age, is really sitting with that lost potential. The reality that I see today, the reality that I see now in my own life of the possibility of so much beauty and joy and connection and love, and knowing that losing this person is actually a part of all of that. And it's not something separate, and it's not something outside. Grief does not take away from love. Grief is so strong because there was so much love. It is a part of it. And in processing it and in moving through the world with it, I feel so much conviction to really, really feel the love that I feel, because it is real And I know that it's real because having lost this person, thankfully, has not taken away any of the love that I get to feel for them. And that I know they're sending my way too. One of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about this and something like this is because this experience has really been a direct catalyst for so much of my growth and so much of my commitment to my own understanding and to really, really, really dig in to myself and to my own dissatisfaction and feelings of unworthiness or insecurity or whatever was coming up for me for so many years. This experience really showed me that that was work worth doing. That I was worth taking care of myself, that I was able to take care of myself, and that was something that was worth my time and energy. And I think that those ideas and that path came out of an experience like this because it just became so clear to me that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to even begin understanding what had happened and how it felt to me and what it meant and what my options were moving forward, you know? It just got to a point where I knew that I couldn't half-ass it, you know? I couldn't just, let it be and let it come in waves and sort of see what happened and how I felt. And I got to a point where I knew I needed help. I knew that I really needed someone to help me process and understand and make choices moving forward, because I just felt completely lost, because it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense, and I don't know that it ever will make sense, and I'm pretty sure that it's just not supposed to, and that's okay. And so I wanted to figure out what it meant to me, what he meant to me, and what this experience was teaching me. And through getting back into therapy because of something so big like that, I was then also launched into really discovering so much more about myself, and also about why I felt so lost and so helpless. I didn't feel that way simply because I was going through this experience that I didn't necessarily have the tools to deal with it. But also I realized that there had been a lot of experiences that I hadn't fully processed and that I hadn't fully allowed into my life, like things that had happened to me or that I had experienced that I had brushed away in a sense where I wasn't allowing them to inform my life. I wasn't learning from them, and I wasn't making any choices based on like the information I had gained from a certain experience. And so in going into therapy with the intention to find help in processing this completely overwhelming experience, I realized that there had been a lot in my life that I wasn't fully seeing, and that I wasn't fully allowing myself to understand or find my own understanding of in order to then better my life moving forward. I was really in this pattern, and granted, I was 22, but I was really in this pattern of just absolutely swallowing, absorbing, and eventually, hopefully, forgetting or leaving behind any type of experience or situation that I didn't fully understand, or that was hard for me, or that was painful. I wasn't even entertaining it. And I wasn't even getting curious about my own experience and what I was really feeling, and actually feeling something as painful and actually understanding what that meant. And then by doing that, I could then really feel other feelings that weren't painful. I really, in this early phase of like getting really deep into therapy, I learned that I did not really have a lot of names for my experience and my feelings. And it's something that was really hard to process in my early 20s, because I felt like, how did I miss this? Like how have I been operating without even like being able to acknowledge my own feelings? It was a really, really confusing but also illuminating phase of therapy to just realize, like, I did not know what I was feeling. I didn't know what to call it, and because I didn't know what to call it, I didn't really ever find a way in for myself of how to process it. And I think that part of why it maybe took something as big as this sudden passing of a friend at 22, something so huge and so world shattering, it took for me something like that to finally admit to myself that I needed help. Like, for a while, all the other stuff that I like wasn't fully experiencing or wasn't fully processing or whatever it might have been, I had been doing okay with that all. I had been functioning. I had been performing well enough in school and in all different areas. I had been doing enough, at least on the outside, or at least that's how it seemed on the outside, and I could get through and I could complete the responsibilities that I had and yada 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 yada. But when I experienced this, and when I started to really experience grief, I just knew that I had no idea what to do. I really was just like feeling completely helpless. And not, thankfully for me, not in a way where I didn't want help. I'm really grateful that for whatever reason I did want help. And I hope that if anyone is out there, just know that everyone needs help. Everyone needs help all the time, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to need help. You love giving help, probably. Most of us do, especially those of us who might find it hard to ask for help. It's not as hard to give help, so just put yourself in the other person's shoes and remember that they are probably more than happy to help you too. And especially if it comes to something like therapy, I mean, come on. Hire someone to help you. It works. It worked for me. So anyway, not to derail myself from this heavy topic, but in experiencing something like grief where it was just undeniable to me that I was not equipped to handle my own experience. And so I reached out for help. I found a therapist, and I got so lucky that it was a great fit. I stayed with her for 6 years, like I mentioned. And through that catalyst of wanting to process this grief, I was able to begin this journey of really, really digging deep, really, really getting curious about myself, and being willing to really understand myself, regardless of what I ended up finding. I had to let go of a lot in therapy, a lot of the voices in my head that were telling me that I should have known this, or I could have known that, or I would have known if I blah, blah, blah. And all of those voices, they just aren't helpful. They don't have your best interest at heart. What's true is that whatever is true for you, whatever that you know to be true for you, is exactly what you are supposed to know. And whatever you are feeling is exactly what you are supposed to be feeling. And then it is up to you to move through that, to look at that with your unique perspective. And if you are willing to understand yourself in a new way, then you will be open to really discovering what all of that means and what all of that looks like for you. And so to wrap this up, and I know this is not the most structured conversation, although this podcast certainly isn't supposed to be that anyway, but I really this has just really been on my mind and my heart. And I also, honestly, I tried to record a couple other topics before I dove into this one, and it just wasn't feeling right. And I kind of knew why, but I didn't know if I was ready or really wanted to dive into this. But I decided to try, and I'm glad that I did, because it does feel right. I feel much more connected to just this conversation of the moment versus like the other topic I tried to talk about first. That'll be next week. And so anyway, I hope that if you're out there listening, if you relate at all, if you know me and you know of this situation and you knew him too, reach out to me. I love you so much. I think about him and all of us all the time, and I'm sure you do too. And so I guess the final few things I want to say about grief, and really why I just want to put this out there, is that grief really does come in waves. It really, really does. Everyone always says that. It's in every movie script that talks about grief. Grief comes in waves. It really, really does. But what I want to say about those waves is that they're not all the same size, and they're not all the same color. And so the waves of grief can really change and evolve based on how you move with them and how you sort of see the bigger process of carrying a type of grief like this. So, some of the waves are those dark, heavy, huge, crashing down, you can't swim through, and that's like the one end of of how grief can show up. It can be just completely overwhelming and debilitating, right? And then there's also like these other ripples of grief where what I feel like I've been experiencing a little bit this weekend in thinking about this, and even now choosing to sit here and talk about this, is there are those smaller waves, those little ripples that still I would classify as being a part of this experience of grief. But maybe it's golden hour and you see the shimmering sun and the sparkling lights of the reflection, and maybe there's an orange glow from the sunset and the waves are coming in. That is also a part of grief, because that type of experience is when I'm talking to my mom about what I've learned over the years and how I've been able to connect to myself and understand things in a new way, and I get this little wave of grief that's really just a reminder of his love and my love for him. And also for me, I like to take a lot of those moments to heart and really feel that I know that he's always here somewhere. And I personally really believe that anyone who has passed on, they're still here in their energy and their love, you know. I'm a believer of that we have our body and we have our energy, and there's these different parts of us, and there's these different parts of our experience of life and our experience of each other, and there is so much that doesn't go away, and it really doesn't. It never goes away. And I think that is part of why grief can be so persistent and so much to carry for so long, because there are those parts of these people from our lives that will always be with us. And I think it's worth looking at. No matter how hard it is sometimes, no matter how big or heavy the waves feel, I always want to look at it, and I always want to remember that I am carrying that. I am carrying this experience of having lost someone, and that means so much to me, because I get to carry them with me. I get to carry their love that they gave me. I get to carry the memories that we shared. We get to carry those things, these parts of these other people. And it's really hard, but the more that I do it, the easier it gets sometimes. Sometimes it can be not so heavy, you know. And in choosing to carry these parts of this experience, it is one of those things that it never fails me. It never fails me to believe that his love is still here. Because every time I want to think of it or feel it, I do. Always. And it always works. It's one of those crazy things where it's just undeniable. And so I can't choose to believe that that's gone. I can't choose to believe that that part of him is gone. I can't choose to believe that I lost that part. I didn't. I still have it. Thank God. You know? And yeah. It's just one of those things. It keeps proving itself. That belief keeps proving itself right. And I'll hold on to that forever. And I'm really, really grateful. The other part of another part of grief and processing grief and carrying grief that can be really, really difficult is to feel some gratitude within it. It's the hardest thing in the world to find a sliver of gratitude for having lost someone. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I do know that it is valuable because it happened. There's nothing I can do about that. And so it is valuable to me to try and find some gratitude within this experience, because that also helps to amplify the love, and to amplify the joy and the connection of the memories of whatever might come up, and to feel grateful, at least right now, to feel grateful in the moment that I get to tap into that love, that I get to believe that love is there, and then I get to tap into it and it works. I'm so grateful for that. And it's one of those things where, of course, I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that belief didn't prove itself right. Because I wish it didn't have to. Because I wish he was still here. But to find all the different colors of it all, and to find whatever it is we can carry with us, I think it's worth working to learn how. And so now this is one of those moments where I am just becoming extremely aware of the fact that nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for your podcast, Claire, and nobody asked you to talk about grief and dying and this stuff that nobody wants to talk about, right? I mean, I know that a lot of people do want to talk about it. I am one of those people, and I listen to conversations of people that talk about things like this, and I know I know we're out there, but I am just becoming extremely self-aware in the fact that, nobody asked for this conversation, so So wow, if you are listening and if you are connecting to this at all, thank you. This was just something that I just felt really, really called to talk about. And like I said, I tried to talk about something else today, and it just wasn't clicking. And I knew I needed to tap into this for a moment. I was resisting it. The thing you resist persists, as they say. And so thank you so much for listening. I don't know how to end this. I'm feeling super anxious because now I'm a little bit in my head about why I did this and why I just talked about this for 45 minutes. But I'm gonna let these feelings be here. I am gonna hold strong in the fact that I've been feeling very, very called and pulled to sit down and talk about this. And so this moment of maybe some self-doubt is creeping in here at the end. That's okay. This has all been a process in learning what this space is for me and for you. And this is just really where I felt drawn today. I really believe that this is something that can be really valuable to talk about. I think a lot of what I'm feeling right now is just from having released a little bit of my internal process about this type of experience. It's a really difficult thing to talk about, and so I know that I surely was not the most eloquent in really getting to the point, or again, this is not the most structured episode, but I thank you so much for listening. And I really don't know how to end this, so I'm just gonna end this by saying thank you. Number one, if you have ever lost somebody, I love you. If you have ever lost someone or been tackling your own experience of grief for a number of different reasons, I see you and I feel you, and you are not alone. And grief is really difficult, and it can be really heavy, and it is one of those things that I know for certain is lighter when we carry it together. And my experience moving through grief, through this experience of losing my friend, I absolutely was able to feel the weight that is lifted when we all come together and allow ourselves to share this experience and to hold each other in it, because it can be really isolating, but I do think it's much more illuminating and a much more meaningful experience when we really do share it. Grief is so hard because it's something that's connected to another person and the loss of another person or a thing or a situation or wherever your experience of grief is coming from. It's often rooted in the loss of another. And if we can maybe use these experiences and our experience of these experiences to further connect with one another, with us who are here, who understand these feelings, who have moved through similar experiences, that is where a lot of value can come out the other side of this completely indescribable experience. If we can just feel it with one another, then I think we can learn more about what it means and how it feels and how we want it to inform our life. And so, with that, I am going to leave this episode here. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. And if you have anything that you would like to send in for this podcast, any responses or different perspectives on anything I have talked about so far in these first few episodes, if you have a new topic that you would like to hear explored on this show, please send it in. Anything that's on your mind, anything that's on your heart, this is a place for you. And so until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, whatever you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone. Lay it on me. Bye. Thanks for listening.